The note said that this unconscious woman was her 19-year-old daughter, Kirsten, and she was gravely ill and needed medical attention, but she couldn't be the one to take her to the hospital.
Whoa, off with a banger of a start.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much. I am Rebecca.
I'm Rachel. So nice to meet you. Thank you for having us.
And inviting us into your ears.
Oh my God. Yeah, for real. You have no idea. If you're new here, we're identical twins. We love true crime stories with the plot twist or shock factor. We want you to be like, holy shit, every damn episode.
That's the goal. What we're not so much about is, like old-timey crimes. You're never going to hear a crime or a murder from the 1800s. It's just not going to happen.
Nope.
We find it boring. There. I said it.
It's just what they did.
Again, we said it once, and damn it, we'll say it many other times. It's just what they did back then. So, I don't find it that interesting. And I can even say that, and it's not offensive because it was so long ago. They're like, who cares? Who am I offending?
Yeah, no. That's the only good part about old-timey crimes is you could probably be very casual about it, but we're not casual here at People Are the Worst. Now, I'm going to jump right into this one. This is Rachel. I'm telling y'all a story today. Rebecca is recording live from her studio over her house, which means this is virtual. We're recording this separately. We are currently working on a way to record this in person. Moving forward, it's going to be awesome. But Rebecca's at home. Her kids are not in school today. So listen.
So annoying.
If you hear a little pitter patter of the feet, we will pause. We'll text her husband and say, get those damn kids out of here.
And we hope that you'll be none the wiser, but you might hear a little bit of it.
But don't worry. She's not talking that much today. I am. And I'll tell y'all in advance, I am so sorry.
Oh, no.
I'm so sorry. This is, I said this spiel in our last bonus episode. If you're an Apple subscriber or Patreon, you've heard me say this before. I'm telling you now, this is the darkest case I have ever covered.
Damn it.
I know. And it's well known. It's international. So I had not heard of it, but I do know it's well known. So a lot of our international listeners will probably be like, duh, especially if you're from Austria. But I'll say now, if there's any sort of crime that triggers you, I can almost guarantee it's in the story.
Oh, God.
I know. The only one that's not, there's no animal cruelty. I'll tell you that.
Oh, okay.
Shocking that there's not. That's the twist.
Oh.
But anything else, you can go ahead and assume it's in here. So if that triggers you and you don't want to hear it, I would skip this one. I don't go into details. Anything I wish I could know, I do not say it out loud.
But she did say off camera that there is a big plot twist. So I encourage you to stick around. Let's see what it is, because I don't even know who she's talking about right now. Go on.
Yeah. All right. Enough of that spiel. So I'm telling y'all about Elisabeth Fritzl.
Okay.
Sources, mostly a book that I'll say at the end, but it's by John Glatt.
Okay.
Several articles from The Guardian, a Medium article by Tim Reynolds that I'll also say at the end.
The Tim Reynolds?
I know, right? I was like, didn't you tour with Dave for a long time? Or whatever. Play with him. Maybe he was in Dave Matthews Band. I can't remember, but yes, not that Tim Reynolds.
Okay.
On April 19th, 2008, 72-year-old Josef Fritzl opened the front door of his home in Amstetten, Austria, and sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong, I don't think I am, to find a woman lying in front of it unconscious. He had no idea who she was, but she definitely needed medical attention, so he called emergency services.
Inside his own house? Is that what you said?
Outside. He opened his front door and she was lying in the street.
Oh, wow. Okay.
As he waited, he searched her pockets for ID and found a note. The note was from his daughter, Elisabeth, who had run away 24 years prior. They hadn't seen her since 1984, and we are currently in 2008 at this story.
Oh, my God.
The note said that this unconscious woman was her 19-year-old daughter, Kirsten, and she was gravely ill and needed medical attention, but she couldn't be the one to take her to the hospital.
Whoa. Off with a banger of a start. Yeah.
Joseph's wife of over 50 years, Rose Marie, was out of town, so he immediately called her and said, "Get home now. Elisabeth just left another one of her kids on our doorstep, but this time she's 19 years old and she's dying.
Another?
The ambulance came and took Kirsten to the hospital, and Josef followed behind with the note in hand to give to the doctors and to authorities. Now I'm going to start at the beginning and tell you about Elisabeth Fritzl.
Okay.
Elisabeth was born on April 6, 1966 in Amstetten, Austria. She was the fourth of 7 children to Josef and Rosemarie. Josef was an engineer and ultimately got into real estate. To make some extra income, he built 8 small apartments in their house and rented them out to different tenants. They also bought an inn at one point, like outside of town, and ran that. So he just dabbled in a lot of things.
Oh, okay.
Rosemarie and Josef were pretty strict parents, although some of their friends said they're strict but always fair. The kids had to be home right after school, no dating ever. Rosemarie was more nurturing while Josef was the disciplinarian. I get the children should be seen, not heard vibes, you know?
Yeah. But this is like the 60s and 70s, so yeah,
very
probably.
Yes.
That was the same here, meaning here as in the United States.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. Like when if they did have a friend over, like one of the kids had a friend over, by the time Josef got home from work, that kid needed to be out. Like, it was like
okay.
Yeah. Like we're in a tight ship. Elisabeth was an average student, not great, and at 15 years old, she finished her required schooling and enrolled in a training course to become a waitress with the ultimate goal of becoming a chef.
Oh, okay.
She got a job. There's a couple of references throughout my research on this. I guess at least at this time, the required schooling, I guess it is here. You go through 16 and most people stop there then. It sounded like a lot of the people, that was like pretty much when they graduated. Yeah, but then they would go to like so in this instance, like they would go to a trade school or do something.
Trade school for waitressing is very interesting. Okay.
Well, most of the sources did say waitressing. Some said it was like more of a catering school. Like she was learning to become a caterer. She ultimately wanted to be a chef. Any of it, something in the hospitality industry.
Okay. Yep. And the food and bev.
Yes. She got a job at a local diner and spent the next couple of years learning everything hospitality industry. Like I said, part of her training was at a technical college in a town 100 miles away. So for 2 months, she lived in a dorm with other hospitality trainees, and she loved the freedom of living on her own. She was like, this is where it's at.
Sure.
She also made really good friends with the other trainees. And in 1983, when the course was over, she longed to move out on her own and keep working. But since she was only 17 at the time, she knew her parents would never let her do it. Yeah. So she and her best friend, whose name we don't know, devised a plan to run away. They spent a few days in Linz, which is about 40 miles from Amstetten, then made their way to Vienna. Since Vienna is a huge city, they knew it would be a lot harder for their parents to find them, living in a cheap apartment that they found. And they just sort of lived the life for a couple of weeks, got to be free young adults in their minds. They're still
fun.
Very much minors. Very much minors.
But fun.
So I know, fun, but like Rosemarie and Josef were frantic.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
They immediately called the police, who started a huge manhunt for Elisabeth and her friend. Oh. Josef even had Elisabeth's brother, Harold, go to Vienna and search the red light district for her. Like, he was scared she turned to that.
Yeah.
3 weeks later, while still hiding out in Vienna, the two went to a party. The friend and Elisabeth went to a party, and cops ended up coming because a neighbor complained that there was too much noise. And when police saw these 2 missing girls, they took them immediately to the police station. They knew they were missing.
Yeah.
So they get to the police station and they call their parents. Josef and Rosemarie went to get Elisabeth, and they were pissed.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Pissed. They brought her home, and this stunt labeled her as a rebellion, a little troubled teen, if you will. So back at home, she started working at a new restaurant, and coworkers would later say that she was the wildest party girl they had ever met.
Wow. She was only gone for like 2 weeks. She liked that. She got a little taste.
Yeah. She was gone for 3 weeks, and the 2 months before that she was at the technical school for the training course. They would like sometimes sneak out and go out. Like she just got a little taste of like living on her own and loved it.
Yeah.
So that she kept doing that. She would sneak out, stay out all night drinking, and then would come into work hungover, often unable to work.
Ooh.
They were convinced she had an alcohol problem and said she could down more beer, schnapps, and wine more than anyone they've ever seen. And her boss even threatened to fire her if she did not calm down because she was coming into work like hungover after being out all night, like, not doing a good job waiting on people.
Sure. Vomiting in food, what have you.
Sure. Once at our ordered a counter job in high school, Rebecca was so hungover that my boss called me and was like, please come work for your sister. She's pitiful. And I was like, no, not my problem.
No, it's not your problem.
Sleep.
I don't remember that.
I did not do it.
I mean,
sorry.
I don't remember that, but that does not surprise me. Nor would I. I'd be like, too bad, so sad, you're dad. Bye.
I know. I'm like, whatever. She's, what were we, 17, 18?
Yeah, she's
having
fine.
to rally through a 4-hour shift. I think
she's
she'll
faking
be fine.
it.
Don't worry about it.
Here, I'll enlighten you. She's faking it so she'll go home. No one's hungover at 17. I was probably on top of the fucking world.
Our shift was literally from 11 to 2. I mean, what? What was she hungover? No. I was like, absolutely not. No. Good luck.
She had 6 Miller Lights last night. That's it. So, bye-bye.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
Bye. Good luck. Tell her to bring me home a chicken roll-up. Thanks. In the summer of 1984, Elisabeth was 18, and Rosemary and Joseph started loosening up on their strict rules a little bit. She had a boyfriend named Andreas. She made some new friends, still went out a lot, but she was planning to move out of her parents' house and in with her older sister, Ulrich and Linz.
Okay.
Sorry, I did not look up how to say that. Ulrich.
Oh, and she lives in Linz?
And she lives in Linz, yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Which is, again, 40 miles away, But before she could move in with her sister, on August 28th, 1984, she left for work and never came back. Joseph and Rosemary stayed up all night waiting on her, but when morning came and she still wasn't home, they went straight to the police station and reported her missing.
Yeah.
Since she'd run away before, they were confident it was the same situation. So while they were worried, they were also pissed again.
Mm-hmm.
She'd been threatening to run away, and putting them through this worry was really hard, especially on Rosemary, as we'll get to.
Yeah.
They went to the restaurant where she worked and asked her coworkers and boss if they knew where she was planning to go, which they said, no, we don't. They went to homeless shelters, train stations, bars, everywhere looking for her. Rosemary even went to a fortune teller to see if she could shed any light on where she may have gone, but to no avail.
She's desperate.
Yeah, she took it really hard. Finally, on September 21st, 1984, 3 weeks after she disappeared, they got a letter from Elisabeth. Confirmed her handwriting. She actually wrote it. It said she and a friend ran away to live with a religious group, and she didn't want to have any contact with them or her siblings anymore. She said, do not look for me. Otherwise, I'm leaving the country and will never come back. The postmark on it was from Braunau am Inn.
Minnesota?
Yeah, which I think I'm saying that right. It's about 100 miles from Amstetten, and that's where Hitler was born. If you're curious.
Fun fact. I wasn't. I probably knew that back in my brain.
I know.
And you said M-N?
Braunau am N. So Braunau and then space AM space INN.
Y'all
that's
heard
the
that.
Town name.
Y'all heard
that's
that, right?
The town name. I was like, I don't get why
I said Minnesota. Yeah, y'all get it, right. Listeners. Y'all heard it too. Elevator legs.
Well, right. No, it's AM space N.
Mm-hmm.
They were so relieved to know that she was at least safe,
but
said, screw not looking for her. No daughter of theirs was joining a cult. I mean, that she said it was a religious group, but they're like, cult.
Right. That no one knew about that you ran away with. Yeah, right.
Yeah. Joseph gave the letter to police and ramped up the search. Police gave the missing persons report to the Austrian Interior Ministry, which is a government agency focused on public safety. So it sounds like the equivalent of the FBI or Department of Homeland Security, really. But the big wigs.
Yeah.
Interpol even interviewed a couple of known religious groups, and newspapers published a story of her disappearance, but those efforts really didn't go anywhere. And eventually the investigation went cold.
Wow. I can't believe a flight risk like that was taken seriously from the jump. Good.
Yeah, I know.
Because, frankly, I don't believe this religious group. I don't even believe she's in a cult. Yeah. I think she was forced to write it, is what my initial inkling is. But I'll let you tell me, because
you'll for sure find out. But yeah, they took it very seriously. This was a very small town, especially at the time, and everyone knew the family. They knew the parent. I don't know. The local police department for sure took it seriously. The fact that they got it to the higher up so quickly. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Especially assuming that she ran away.
Mm-hmm. That's what I mean.
Well, by April 16th, 1985, the search was officially called off because Elisabeth had just turned 19. And I guess at this time, that's when you were considered an adult in Austria. I briefly Googled it, and I think now it is 18, but she was considered a minor up until this point.
Oh, interesting. I was actually wondering that.
Yeah, well, I was wondering that too. I was like, she's 18. What do you
know,
mean?
but I thought it was going to be a dumb question because I just assume it's 18
you look
everywhere.
So dumb right now.
I thought it was 18 everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah, and one of those rabbit holes, and I'm like, I'm not going to look this up any further, but I think it is 18. At this time, we're in the 80s.
Right.
They said they called it off when she turned 19.
Okay.
In the following years, Joseph and Rosemary pushed investigators to please keep looking, but they said no, she's not a minor. If she wants to run away, now she can. Yeah. We're good. So Joseph and Rosemary and the rest of the family did what they could to keep her story out there. They gave countless interviews with TV stations, newspapers, trying to drum up information. Her sisters did their own investigation, trying to figure out which cult she joined, but that proved to be very hard. We're in the now late 80s, so it's not like they could pop on Reddit and be like, right, where are the Austrian cults at?
Yeah. Upvote this.
Anyway, upvote this if you have any information to any cults, because they said they were quoted actually in the book being like, where do you even look for a cult? I'm like, oh, so y'all didn't even know where to begin. Wow. Which I get. It was, again, the 80s.
Yeah. What do you do?
Well, they looked around, asked around, and eventually were like, it's impossible. Like, if the investigators aren't going to tell us anything, then what can we do? Before they knew it, it was almost 9 years since Elisabeth had been gone. No contact, no sightings, nothing. Until May 1993.
Okay.
In May 1993, Joseph opened the front door to find a little baby girl in a cardboard box and a note from Elisabeth.
Oh my gosh.
The note said, "Dear parents, I hope that you're all healthy. You will probably be shocked to hear from me after all these years. And with a real surprise, no less, I'm leaving you my little daughter, Lisa. Take good care of my little girl." She went on to say that she just stopped breastfeeding her, but now Lisa drinks milk from a bottle. She's a good girl, but she's just unable to take care of her.
No, but thanks.
Yeah, no. They took in little baby Lisa, who looked underweight, and they nursed her to health. They fed her, gave her all the love in the world. Rosemary especially loved having her little grandbaby there.
Oh, I know. I'm sure they did, and they were willing to take her in. But I don't want to share my opinion because I feel like I have a suspicion. But I'll just save it until the end.
Okay.
I'll let you know if what you tell me is what I was thinking. How about that? But if that is actually Elisabeth leaving that baby, I'd be like, wait, no. This is not how this works. I'd be a little pissed. We've been worried sick about you for however many, 9 years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Keep going.
Yeah. Almost 2 years later, in December 1994, they got yet another surprise.
No.
Another baby girl, this one's name is Monica, was left in a cardboard box on their doorstep with a note from Elisabeth. The note said, "I'm really sorry that I had to turn to you again. I hope Lisa is doing well. She must have grown a bit by now. Monica is now 9.5 months old. She was breastfed for 7.5 months. She now eats mostly anything, but she still likes the bottle the best. The hole at the teat has to be a little bigger for her." So, A few minutes after this discovery, the phone rang. Rosemary answered it, and for the first time in over 10 years, she heard her daughter's voice.
Oh my God.
It was Elisabeth, and she was whispering. Elisabeth told her to please don't be angry, but, quote, "I just left her at your door. I can't tell you where I am." It was a very quick call, but she said she could not take care of Monica and asked Rosemary and Joseph to, and then hung up.
But it was a whisper?
Yeah, it was a whisper, and she was talking fast.
Is Rosemary confident it was her, or we don't know. I'm gonna let you just. Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about that in a little bit.
Okay.
And normally I would just answer, and it will be like, to hell with the structure, but that really can't. I can't get into that.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm not there yet. Mind you, this is a small town, and news of Elisabeth running away to join a cult was already everywhere. There's rumors flying, all this. Now these babies being abandoned on her parents' doorsteps, there was a media frenzy over it.
Yeah.
What the hell is going on?
Right. Let's stick a camera on that front porch next to the door and let's catch her in action.
Right. Well, it's like the early 90s.
No, I know.
Those it would have been the big camcorder.
She would have seen it.
Definitely couldn't go undetected.
She'd have to bend under it to put the baby on the on the porch.
Right. People were outraged with how irresponsible and unfit Elisabeth was. I mean, people were pissed. The outrage certainly didn't stop on August 3rd, 1997, when a third baby was left on their doorstep.
Her aging parents like, God damn it.
I know. I'm about to get to their age. I'm like, you're starting over. Yeah. They already had 7 on their own that are gone, out of the house.
Oh my God. They just wanted to be empty nesters, have a cocktail at, 4:00 and then go to bed by 8:00. What do we, poor things.
I know. This time it was a little boy named Michael, and he had, again, a note with him, said the same thing. So now they have 3 young kids to raise, and they're in their 60s at this point.
Oh, God.
But again, they loved having their 3 grandbabies in the house. And at this point, Joseph did become pretty successful. They had some money. And since they went on to legally adopt all these babies, they got a little money from the state to do it.
Oh, yeah.
So they weren't as stressed financially as they once had been with the 7 original kids they had.
And it probably fills a void. You thought your daughter was probably dead at this point after a decade of never hearing from her. So I bet it's kind of like, well, we have a little piece of her.
Yeah, for sure. They even raised them. Well, I mean, they assumed she could have been dead, but the notes they said did match her handwriting.
No, but they didn't get
so they knew she was safe, but they just thought she wanted nothing to do with them.
I know, but they didn't even get so much as a note until 1993, right? After a decade of her being missing.
Yeah, almost a decade. You're right.
So,
you're right. I see. They even raised the 3 new young kids without the strict bounds for the most part.
I'm sure their grandparents
that Elisabeth and her siblings had. Yeah, they're
like, fuck it, do whatever. You want candy for dinner? Sure.
Yeah, well, I know, but they are their only guardians. I know. Their parents and grandparents. Joseph built a pool in the back, and the kids could have friends over. They played sports, did well in school. They played musical instruments. These were all things that Elisabeth and her siblings really couldn't do.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. Joseph and Rosemary wanted to do anything they could to make sure the kids had a good upbringing. They never posed as their parents. The kids always knew that they were the grandparents. And when the kids started getting old enough to be like, oh, wait,
where's mom?
So that means, mom abandoned us. Rosemary immediately took them to a child psychologist to work through it. And then they'd have like little parties to make sure it was like a positive thing. Their new family dynamic was like positive, like, yay.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So they would like celebrate it.
Okay.
It's nice.
Yeah.
Social workers would also check in on them as routine with adoptions like this. And they were also very impressed with how the kids were adapting. So they're fine.
Okay.
In 2006, Rosemary and Joseph celebrated their 50th wedding anniversary. The kids were now 14, 12, and 10. And Joseph and Rosemary are in their 70s. Well, Rosemary, I think, is in her late 60s. Joseph's in his 70s and now retired. Because of all the like attention on Elisabeth running away and abandoning her babies to these like elderly people, the town wanted to celebrate them for their 50th. Again, small town. So they had like a little party for them in town,
I just got
hosted
goosebumps.
by the town. It's nice.
That is really nice.
Yeah. In late 2007, they got a letter from Elisabeth. No baby, but a letter. She said she had grown tired of this cult and wanted to come home and finally reunite with her family. She said she was hoping to be home within the next 6 months, sometime in early summer 2008. It would be 24 years since they had seen her.
Yeah.
The letter came in December, just before Christmas, And so they were like considered a Christmas miracle. Like the Fritzls were amped.
Yeah. Are you annoyed of all the suspicions I keep bringing up about this?
Yeah, I'm glad you're not saying them, but honestly, anything in your head that you're thinking is probably not as bad as the truth.
Oh, damn, son.
It's so bad.
Oh, God. Okay. Well.
So that letter came in December 2007. Hopefully I'll be home in the next 6 months. So that puts us, May, June-ish. Only a couple months later, in April 2008, Joseph found Kirsten unconscious at the front door.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where we are now. We're back to that.
Okay.
Rosemary and she has the letter saying, this is my 19-year-old, help her. He calls Rosemary and says, get your ass back in town. We have another child dropped on our doorstep. This one's an adult and she's dying again. So Rosemary's on her way home while Joseph goes to the hospital with Kirsten. At the hospital, Kirsten was put into a medically induced coma and was suffering from organ failure.
Ooh.
Doctors told Joseph that they desperately needed to find Elisabeth so they could save her life. And Joseph was like, same. We have no effing clue where she is. Yeah. We have not seen her in 24 years. We've gotten letters, very little contact. He told him about the abandoned babies, all of it.
Uh-huh.
So the doctor called police and was like, yeah, y'all got to start the investigation. We have to save this dying 19-year-old so you can arrest her for neglect or whatever. The investigation's back on.
Yeah.
That night, the doctor went on the news with a picture of Elisabeth from when she went missing, pleading for someone to come forward of her whereabouts so she can get to the hospital and help save her own daughter.
Yeah.
Like, she was having organ failure, so I'm sure
she needed
something Elisabeth could do there with the match. But they also needed to know, like, how did she get here?
Right.
What were her symptoms before? What caused this? Like, the only person that knows any of that is Elisabeth.
Mm-hmm.
So they're like, we need information. You got to come down here. Upon seeing the news that night, Elisabeth walks into the hospital.
Oh, I thought Kirsten was going to be Elizabeth.
No. Oh, really?
Yeah.
No. Oh,
that hasn't. This hasn't been. No, that hasn't been my suspicion this entire time. Each little scene you're giving me, I'm like, wait, I don't know.
No. So Elisabeth, the real Elisabeth, walks into the hospital and sat down with the doctor who was asking her for more information about how this young woman became so incredibly sick.
Uh-huh.
Elisabeth walked through the symptoms Kirsten was having prior to this and then said, okay, well, now I have to go. Well, the whole interaction was very bizarre. The doctor's like, no, you're not going to leave.
The fuck you do.
And he called police to stop her.
Yeah.
The police met her at the entrance. I think they were already there. I think he was very worried about this, obviously.
Yeah.
So they stopped her like at the gate.
Mm-hmm.
The police took her down to the station and started investigating the abuse Kirsten had clearly endured.
Oh.
A 19-year-old isn't in the shape for nothing. And then dropped on a doorstep.
Like an infant. Like, what? No,
yeah.
She's 19. Take her to the hospital. God.
Right. They sat Elisabeth down in an interrogation room, questioning her about the children she abandoned, the neglect, the clear abuse that Kirsten had, the cult, everything. But Elisabeth stayed silent. She just stared at the wall. Ooh. They're like, okay, well, you're probably going to jail. Like, they're like really laying into her. And finally, after several hours, she started talking, but not without a promise from detectives. She said, I'll tell you everything, but I want a promise. They're like, okay, great. And she said, I'll tell you everything from the past 24 years if you promise me that I will never have to see my father again, because I have never run away. Unbeknownst to her entire family except Joseph, she had been held captive in her family basement for the past 8,516 days by her own father.
Oh my God. Holy shit. Then I do know. Yes, I've heard of this. I don't think I knew her name. I didn't know that he put the babies on the stoop, but I remember seeing a father keeping his daughter captive, getting her pregnant. Holy shit. Oh my God. Holy shit. Okay.
It gets so dark.
When you said I have my next one's dark, I said, is it children or incest? Were you like, oh shit, it's both?
I was floored. I said,
Really?
I don't know what you're planning to do next, but the darkest one we've probably covered is going to be mine. And Rebecca said, in terms of what, like kids or incest? And I said, I'd rather not say, but I was like, both.
Yeah. Wow.
It's disgusting.
That is repulsive. Okay.
I know. And again, there's a lot that I'll leave out details wise. If there's a detail I wish I didn't know, I don't want to say it out loud. I wish I didn't know this whole damn thing, but fucking Reddit or Medium or something. I can't remember where I found it, but
I will say more and more listeners have been like, you can get into details. We can handle it. We're adults type thing. We've gotten a lot of comments like that. I mean, like, it's a true crime podcast, and sometimes I'm morbidly curious. So I'm like, oh yeah, I get that.
Well, I mean, trust, there are plenty of disturbing details coming up,
no,
but
yeah,
there's a lot to it.
Okay.
Here's what actually happened.
Shit.
Joseph was an absolute nightmare to his family. While outwardly the community liked him, he was a strict but fair parent, blah, blah, blah. No, he was abusive to his kids, mostly physically, but sadly for Elisabeth, also sexually.
Oh,
everyone was scared of him. He was sex crazed, constantly cheated on Rosemary. But the book said that Rosemary was the perfect wife for him because she would never stand her ground. She was a nurturing mom, but like when it came to Joseph, very submissive, turned a blind eye to his horrible behavior.
Wait, but did she know about the children? Did she know about the sexual abuse to Elisabeth?
No, not about that. She knew that he was really crossing a line with punishment and discipline, but I don't think she knew how bad it was. She had no idea about this. No idea.
Oh,
it's sad.
My God.
It's when they reunite.
Yeah. She was a victim too, in a way. Obviously not as bad as Elisabeth, of course, but damn, she mourned her daughter.
For 24 years. Wait, hold on. We're going to get there. I'm still talking about Joseph was a fucking
piece
monster.
of shit. Yeah.
So he was, again, sex crazed. He cheated on Rosemary all the time. He was, even though they had almost no money, especially when all the 7 kids were young, he'd take luxurious Mediterranean vacations. He bought really nice suits. He frequented brothels for sex workers, going as often as 2 to 3 times a week while Rosemary's at home taking care of the kids.
Fuck you.
He was a regular at one brothel, and all the girls were very creeped out by him because of his weird-ass demands. He'd pay $225 an hour for them to play dead while he masturbated.
Whoa, hold on. Oh, my. Wow.
The owner of this brothel said he was quote, he had, quote, the most warped and perverted fantasies of anyone. The owner of a brothel said that. The girls that worked there would later just say, we're not taking him as a client, which is something the owner said rarely happened. They were in it for the money. Really, there were no limits. And they were like, limit, that guy's out.
That is a call to the police. I'm like, this guy is really into necrophilia. He's a necrophiliac.
Necrophilia actually does not come into play here.
Well, he does.
Now that you mention it.
He does fantasize about it. So that's enough for me to call the cops and say, just a heads up, we have if not already a serial killer, he will be.
He's teetering.
He's
demented.
Wow.
All the while, he's spending all this money. All the while, his 7 kids would sometimes have to wear the exact same outfit to school for days at a time. While he's paying $225 an hour, 2 to 3 nights a week for sex and spending God knows what on fancy suits just to keep up with appearances.
Wow.
Like, you're such a piece of shit. In 1967, he raped a 24-year-old nurse at knife point in Linz, Austria. And this is while I think they had 3 kids at this point. Elisabeth was 2 years old, almost 2 years old. Like,
he's a monster. Yeah.
He was sentenced to 18 months in jail, to which I think Rosemary told the kids he was like away on business or whatever you do. He ended up serving a year in jail, and afterwards he contemplated how he could get away to fulfill his constant need for sex without having to go back to jail. And this is when he came up with this horrible plan to hold his own daughter captive.
This is so disgusting.
It's disgusting. He was planning this imprisonment for 6 years, starting when Elisabeth was just 12 years old.
Holy shit.
So in the 70s, when he added those 8 apartments to their house to rent out for extra income, he also secretly extended the basement. Unbeknownst to anyone, he made part of this basement extension an actual dungeon. No one even knew about it. He got permits approved based on one plan and then did something else. He explained to everyone that the basement was his man cave and his office, and the rest of the family, as well as the tenants, were given very strict rules that they were never to go down there. Rosemarie, his wife and Elizabeth's mother, had literally never been down there.
God, she is submissive. I'd be like,
she did exactly what she was told. Yeah.
I have 7 kids. I want a little alone time. I'm getting access to that room too.
Yeah. The dungeon was accessible through 8 locked doors, 3 of which had an electronic keypad. So you'd have to have a code to unlock it. The doors were also extremely heavy. One of them weighed half a ton. That's 1,100 pounds.
Oh my God.
Since nobody could know about it, he built the entire thing himself, which is why it took so many years. It was so well hidden that nobody could see it. Even when he was forced to take police there after Elizabeth told them everything, Josef had to point out how the entrance is because they could not find it. They're like, where is this?
Oh my God. Wait, I'm sorry. How old was Elizabeth when he got this idea?
12. And he did it when she was 18.
Oh, wow.
It's sick. One of Elizabeth's older sister, her husband, and Josef were pretty close. So he did go down there once. And even he said, I would have never known anything was amiss down there. You would have known. She was behind 8 locked doors. No one even knew this thing was back there. He was so calculated in this plan that when Elizabeth ran away to Vienna the first time and she started partying really hard, remember I said like they kind of loosened on their strict.
Yeah.
That was calculated because secretly he was like, hell yeah, you're helping me paint the picture of this troubled teen. You've run away before. You party too much. Like, you're obviously a runaway. He was secret. She wondered why he like all of a sudden didn't care as much that she didn't come home straight after work. And like,
poor baby. I was gonna ask if she actually ran away the first time or if she was just silenced into staying quiet. Oh, okay.
No, she did run away to Vienna. That first time really did happen. But he was like, oh, you're really helping shape the plan and shape your reputation. Isn't that
poor
awful?
baby?
I know. The day she went missing, again, she was 18 years old. It's August 1984. Josef asked her to come to the basement to help like hold a door in place so he could seal it. It was like one of the final things he needed to do on this basement he's been working so hard on. So she did it. And before she knew it, he pushed her into one of the small rooms and put an ether-soaked rag against her face, knocking her unconscious.
Wow.
He then dragged her into the dungeon that he had secretly been building. And when she woke up, she was handcuffed to a metal pole. She screamed, but realized it was so down. And it's honestly, you're going to hear the word dungeon 100 times, but there was no point. No one could hear her.
Oh my God, that is terrifying.
He'd bring her food and then rape her and physically abuse her. I know.
I mean, obviously I knew that was coming. I
know. She initially fought back, but she was no match for him, and it made the abuse so much worse. So she stopped fighting. Again, a ton of more disgusting details. Won't get into it. But as years passed, his violence softened a little bit. He would come down to tell her like what's going on in the news, how her brothers and sisters were doing in school. Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
But then he'd also remind her that if she ever tried to escape, the doors were booby-trapped and a deadly gas would be released into the dungeon and she would die. So I didn't soften that much.
I would opt for that. I'd be like, great, good to know. I could put myself out of this fucking misery, you monster.
They weighed so much. She wouldn't have been able to go through.
I know. He's probably lying anyway, but
he is. Yeah, obviously. The nights he'd stay down there, the whole night, he'd tell Rosemarie that he was working on some huge project for work that would make them a fortune. And she was like, well, then let me bring you down coffee. And he'd be like, no. Like it. Ugh.
Oh my God, this is infuriating me. I started this episode cold in my house and now I'm sweating. So.
I know. Tenants did notice some stuff. Like they'd hear noises coming from the basement and see that Josef was bringing down like an insane amount of food and groceries to the basement, way more than for just home. But he was a scary ass landlord. And so nobody ever asked him about it. He told them that if they were ever caught even near the basement, because there was an access through the shared garden that they all had, if they were caught going anywhere near it, he would end their lease without notice immediately.
You don't have to confront him. Fuck him. Just go to the police. They have a missing daughter. Something is kind of weird. I see him go down to the basement, the room that everyone's forbidden to go to, with groceries. Come on.
I know. But by this point, the entire family actually was convinced she ran away.
Yeah. No, I know.
mean, they really weren't that suspicious of no, she's secretly being held captive. No, they actually thought she ran away. They didn't like it, but this was never on anyone's radar.
What if he walks out of the room with a baby? Anyone see that?
No, I cannot tell you why.
I'm pissed.
Ironically, one of the tenants at some point, there were a lot of tenants because he was a nightmare of a landlord. Over the years, those 8 apartments saw over 100 renters. People were like, this guy's a psycho.
Yeah.
But one of them was one of her good friends from the training program.
Really?
Yeah, and they would be like, being like, I just can't believe she'd run away like that. That's horrible. And they're like, yeah, well, what can you do?
Oh.
It's so eerie to think wow, I was living.
She was steps away
next to you.
Yeah. God.
Joseph maintained the grieving father bit for years, doing those interviews, pretending to desperately be searching for his daughter. All the while, Rosemary actually was.
Yeah.
She was devastated.
Right.
She fell into such a deep depression, cried all the time. And the whole time Elisabeth was just downstairs.
Right. Oh,
right after the disappearance, Rosemary gained weight because of the depression and stress. And because of this, Joseph would publicly humiliate her, saying things like, chubby women are way below my standard. And they would say stuff like this in front of their friends, the other kids. Okay. And let me tell you something about physical looks. Get?
I'm done with this episode.
What were you doing?
I got up and walked out.
Oh my God. I thought you were listening to Wiley.
No, I was appalled by it.
Oh, well, you should be. And while we're talking about physical looks and people who are below standards, let me tell you about this fucker. He's heinous.
Oh, I bet he is.
He's terrifying. Yes, Google Josef with an F. Fritzl is Fritzl mugshot, because that's the picture I want you to see. He's terrifying. He looks like every villain in every movie ever made, aside from not Billy Zane style. Grinch. You told AI, you put in ChatGPT, make the Grinch a real person, and that's what you're looking at right now.
Oh,
isn't he
my
horrifying?
God, make the Grinch a real person, but except make him dead 50 years prior.
With an evil plan, with the eyebrows.
Yeah, with the eyebrows pointing. What the fuck is that? He is so repulsively ugly.
He's horrifying.
Oh my God.
And he's going to tell Rosemary that a little weight gains beneath him. You're disgusting.
Oh, you're repulsive, sir. And you are awful. You are an actual monster. Wow.
Ugh. As it goes, and y'all, if I got into this part, this would be a 24-hour episode. But as it goes, he had a horrible childhood. I don't give a shit.
I don't
His
care.
mom
care.
Apparently only had him to prove to his piece of shit dad that she could bear children, but she really had no interest in being a mom. Apparently his incestual ideation started with his mom, but again, I didn't go down that rabbit hole. She sounded horrible, honestly.
Okay, yeah.
He is horrible. There's so much to that story. Feel free to look it up. It's gross.
2 things can exist. Sorry. You came from a piece of shit parent. You turned into a piece of shit parent. Both things are I mean, a lot of people come from horrible upbringings, and they do not plan to rape their 12-year-old daughter. I mean, I know it happened when she was 18, but it came to his head when she was 12 years old.
He acted on it when she was 11. He raped her when she was 11.
Okay, well, fuck you and your childhood. Sorry, I'm getting real pissed off.
I know.
I don't even want you to say anything about his childhood. I mean,
well, that's all I got. So you're in luck.
Yeah, but I'm glad you didn't.
I didn't go down that.
Yeah. A separate sad story, I'm sure, but I don't even want to tell his story. I'm so pissed off at him. This is repulsive. I don't even care. Ugh.
I know. Sorry again.
Sorry, guys.
In 1986, Elisabeth became pregnant for the first time. She had a miscarriage, but 2 years later, in 1988, she had her first baby, a little girl named Kirsten. When she was pregnant with her, he became much less violent. And after Elisabeth delivered Kirsten by herself, Joseph came down there and told Elisabeth that this was the beginning of their new family and he'd be expecting more children from her. All this while holding his grandchild/child. This guy is a sick fuck.
Is this what he told Anne-Marie? That's why they have 7 kids. He's like, you're going to keep bearing my kids.
Rosemary. But yeah, probably. I didn't get their background. 7 kids in the back then is just that's not a lot. Like Rosemary may have wanted 7 kids as well. I don't know. They just had 7 kids. But
I mean, a lot in the 60s, I feel like. Still, it was a pretty big ass family.
Well, she was 50s and 60s.
Like, she was the fourth. You don't want children, you dumb monster. You haven't taken care of your 7 kids. So what the fuck makes you? Why would you? They can grow up and he can rape them.
I guess. No, I know he's a horrible father, but I think he says he want. Oh, actually, we'll get. Well, no, actually, he says he did want kids. We'll get to his defense. He said he was a great father. What are you talking about? Don't worry.
2 or 3 nights at the brothel while we had to wear the same clothes 7 days. Yeah, you're a stand-up guy. You piece of shit. Oh my God, I want to talk about his looks. Can we have a part 2 just to talk about his looks?
Well, oh yeah. Let's do. Actually.
Okay.
I'm down to watch The Grinch all day.
Oh my God, his heart's not growing any 3 sizes.
No. So Kirsten would be the first of the 7 kids he'd have with his daughter. New York Times said, quote, he led a double life with one family of 7 children with his wife and a second family of 7 children with his daughter.
Oh my God.
It's disgusting.
This is for sure.
How many times do I say that? Joseph would drive far out of town. After Kirsten was born, he would drive really far out of town to get diapers and formula so nobody local would see him and be like, why are you getting diapers and formula? Over the next 14 years, she had several more children, again, 7 total, all without any medical care and in these very dark, damp, horrible conditions.
Mm-hmm.
Very soon after Kirsten was born, a little boy named Stefan, and then came Lisa in 1992. After Lisa, the dungeon was getting crammed, obviously.
Oh my God.
So he expanded it to accommodate, but the conditions were obviously horrific. Low ceilings, dark, wet, terrible ventilation, rats. There was somewhat of a bathroom. If you Google it, you can see the bathroom. That's it. They don't show what they considered the bedrooms, considering that's where a lot of the torture took place.
Mm-hmm.
But there was like kind of a little shitty bathroom, but they're living like caged animals.
Oh.
It was still crammed after the expansion. So in May 1993, he devised a plan to put Lisa in a box, force Elisabeth to write a letter saying, please take care of her. And Joseph snuck her onto the front porch. I think he did it in the middle of the night.
Was Lisa the youngest at this point, you said?
Yeah. Okay. At this point, she was the youngest.
Oh my God.
This move was also strategic because it was starting to get really expensive to support all these children, both these families. And he knew if it looked like the baby was abandoned and he and Rosemary adopted her, they would get the state grant.
Oh my God.
So he did this 2 more times.
I am going to throw a brick through a window.
I know. So after Lisa in 1994, Monica was born. She was also left on the doorstep for Rosemary and Joseph to raise.
I bet Elisabeth sees a little like, thank God, there's hope for them.
Yeah.
Kind of like, at least my kids are getting out, or I guess some of my kids are getting out of here.
Yep. In May 1996, she gave birth to twins, Michael and Alexander. Sadly, 3 days later, Michael was having breathing problems. And because this piece of shit refused to take him to the hospital, he died.
Oh my God.
Alexander, however, was also taken upstairs to be raised by Rosemary and Joseph, and he's the last one he took up there.
Oh my God. Are they just living with that baby body in the fucking dungeon?
No, they're not. That's one of the details I'm not going to tell you, but he disposed of it.
Oh my God.
So Alexander is the last one. Yeah. Same thing. Left on the doorstep. Note. Forced. Elisabeth being forced to write it while her babies taken away, all of whom she was bonding with. She was breastfeeding because they had barely any food.
Right.
Just torture.
Oh my God.
All this to get to adopt them so they could get I think it ended up being like $1,500 a month at that time. Like it was a lot.
But at least they're getting vitamin D. They see outside. I know that is horrible to take any baby from their mother, but I'm like, oh my God, at least they're getting a fighting chance.
Yes. Health-wise, it's definitely in their best interest. But poor Elisabeth and poor other babies who were stuck. And I will say, if you're remembering that he went to jail for rape in 1967, why would he be allowed to adopt all these children? In Austria, your record, no matter what, is expunged after 15 years. So
what?
He was cleared of everything after 15 years of that offense. And so like in the state's eyes, he was clean record, nothing there. So if you're wondering that, I don't know. Yep. And it was like, well, who better to raise them than I guess their grandparents who were clearly loving on them and giving them a great life and building the pool and all this stuff.
Yeah. Wow.
Oh, God. So now 3 of her kids are living upstairs while the 2 oldest, Kirsten and Stefan, are downstairs in the torture chamber with Elisabeth. In 2002, Felix was born. He was the last of their babies. He was also kept downstairs with Elisabeth because Joseph knew that Rosemary could not handle another baby. So
Rosemary,
that was it.
Because Rosemary couldn't handle it because he's not raising shit.
Obviously.
Piece of garbage. I cannot stand this guy. I want to pee on his already dead body, it looks like. He looks dead.
I know. He's close to it, but I'll tell you he's not dead.
Oh, good. I want to go spit on him. Wait, I do think you said at the very beginning of this that when we thought that Elisabeth was actually leaving the babies on the front porch, I think you said Michael was left, not Alexander. This is the first we're hearing about Alexander, I feel like.
Oh my God, I'm sorry. Okay.
Okay.
No. Lisa was left, Monica was left, and Alexander was left. If I said Michael, sorry. Michael is Alexander's twin who sadly died.
Okay. Oh.
Yeah. No. Right. So Lisa, Monica, and Alexander were living upstairs while Kirsten, Stefan, and Felix were left with Elisabeth downstairs in the fucking prison.
The reason I do not know these details is I remember this headline and being like, not going to read it. And here I am just getting every single detail that's infuriating me. So
being forced to listen. Yeah. I thought that too. I was like, how do I not know the story? And then I was like, well, it broke in 2008, 2009. I'm in college. I'm not constantly reading about this stuff at the time. And I would have seen that headline and been like, ooh, I do not want to know. And here I am.
Yeah.
Anyway, as the family kept growing, he expanded it after Lisa. It wasn't great. None of it's great, but he tried to turn it into like a small, disgusting apartment. There was like somewhat of a kitchen. He brought in a carpet and a TV, and he even brought in an aquarium with fish in it. He'd show up with presents for the kids.
Fuck off.
He later argued that he was a great dad to them.
Fuck you.
Like, I'm like, they have never seen the sunlight. They don't know what year it is, what day it is.
Right.
What are you talking about?
Go to hell.
Elisabeth, who by the time Felix was born in 2002, had been down there for 18 years and was in very bad health. She was only in her 30s, but her teeth were falling out. She was very malnourished. The stress had taken a huge toll on her health. It's horrible. Her red hair was white.
I bet.
Her teeth, she had gum disease that obviously wasn't getting tended to. That's why her teeth were falling out and her gums were black. Like, it is terrible. But
not to mention the entire body that changes when bearing one child.
Oh my God.
7, including twins. Your body. I mean, yeah. You're probably
been through trauma.
Oh God.
But even with all that, she stayed as strong as she could for her kids. She never complained. She taught them how to read and write. She just played the role that this was normal. Don't worry. It's disgusting. I mean, that she felt that she had to do that.
She is
it is awful.
Fucking superhero. Sorry, I'm saying fuck a lot. It's just that Rach is upsetting me with this.
I know. The only silver lining to what this was doing to her health was that this piece of shit no longer found her attractive. So the rape stops right then.
But did it move to his granddaughter /
Nope.
daughter?
No, she was very worried about that,
God.
but it did not.
Okay. Wow.
To our knowledge, I'm sure there are a million other places that may say otherwise. To our knowledge, he did not do this to anyone else.
Really? I found that hard to believe, but
I found that hard to believe too. But she was getting concerned that he was starting to groom Kirsten to taking on the new wife role. But then she started getting sick as well. He did not.
Okay. But I bet, it's because she got sick. Yeah. Okay. He was
I would assume so.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Mm-hmm. When Rosemary got the phone call from Elisabeth in a whisper saying to take care of Monica, that was Joseph. He disguised his voice, making it high-pitched, yet fast and in a whisper so that Rosemary bought it, and probably just out of pure shock. She probably wasn't even listening, but she did have one suspicion.
Mm-hmm.
In the time Elisabeth had disappeared, the Fritzls had changed their phone number and the new number was unlisted. She even went down to the police station saying, there is no way she could have known our number. How did she call? And I don't think the suspicion was necessarily that it wasn't Elisabeth making the call. It was that she was closer than they thought. Is she secretly talking to someone? Get the investigation back.
I had that feeling that it wasn't Elisabeth called. I thought it was going to be someone else holding her hostage, not her deadbeat fucking husband. But I wonder, was that
father, her deadbeat fucking father?
Well, I was talking about Rosemary's.
I'm sorry. I thought you were talking about on behalf of Elisabeth. I was like, no.
Oh, well, yeah, her deadbeat fucking father for her. But
yeah.
Did he? I bet he changed their number strategically. So just in case Elisabeth got access to a phone, she couldn't call the house. Probably.
No, for most of this time, he had no worries in the world. He would
leave
for
so much
vacations, scummy vacations to Thailand, going to these resorts, these sex resorts, with his crew of men, his best friends for weeks at a time, and leave a bunch of food in the dungeon for Elisabeth. He got very comfortable with his security there. Disgusting.
I hate him so much.
So when Rosemary went to the police station being like, there's no way she found our number on her own, they again tried to find her, but it was very short. No leads, no suspects. They just, again, adult, whatever. By 2007, Joseph was in his 70s and was tired of this double life. Since he was no longer attracted to her, Elisabeth and the other kids were really of no use to him anymore, and the hiding was becoming way too much to work. So he came up with this plan to let them re-enter the world. So he had her write a letter saying that she was sick of the cult. She wanted to come home. But in April 2008, Kirsten was getting really sick. She was 19 years old, very malnourished, having seizures. Her teeth were now falling out as well. She was cramping really bad. It was driving her. She was in so much pain. She was pulling out her hair, literally pulling out her hair.
Oh my
God. She was dying. I know. She was dying. Elisabeth, who at this point was 42 years old, begged him to take her to the hospital. He finally caved, mostly because at this point, again, being 19 and he's in his 70s, he's not going to be able to carry her out and dispose of her body the way it's going to be a lot harder to conceal that.
Now knowing what a piece of shit this guy is, I foresaw that coming. I was like, oh yeah, he doesn't want to deal with a dead body. He can't dispose of her. Wow.
So he caved.
Piece of shit.
He was like, fine, I'll take her to the hospital. And the timing worked out because Rosemary was getting ready to leave for an annual vacation she always did. So he waited for her to leave. And then in the very early hours of April 19th, 2008, he had Elisabeth help him carry Kirsten to the main house because, again, he could not do it himself.
How could she do it? I'd be like, fuck her. I'm just as weak. You piece of shit.
I know, but this allowed her to walk outside. They walked through from the garden access. So for the first time in 24 years, she went outside and could breathe fresh air.
Oh my God. I bet it was euphoric. I bet
this was This was also the first time ever for 19-year-old Kirsten to go outside, even though she was pretty much unconscious. This solace and tiny little hints of freedom was obviously short-lived for Elisabeth because as soon as Kirsten was in position, he locked her back downstairs. Holy shit.
Oh my God.
Once upstairs, Joseph called EMS saying he found an unconscious girl at his front door. He watched the ambulance take her to the hospital. He devised a plan to say, yet again, Elisabeth abandoned her kid, forcing her to write the letter. Kirsten had been admitted for about a week, and Elisabeth was constantly asking Joseph when he would go down the dungeon, like, what's the update? Is she okay? And he'd be like, yeah, she's fine. She's recovering. But then Elisabeth saw the doctor, Elisabeth and Felix and Stefan, who were still in the dungeon with her.
Yeah.
They were actually watching the news when they saw the doctor begging for Elisabeth to come forward because her daughter was dying. And she convinced Joseph to let her go to the hospital under the condition that she'd maintained that she ran away to be in a cult. She did abandon the babies. She was like, I'll stick to that story. Let me go there and save her. So he was like, okay, fine.
God, so she came in with like black gums. No, they were like, oh, what's going on?
They could not
doctors, you piece of shit. They're doctors and policemen. They know that they can see Elisabeth has not just run away willingly to see a cult. They've had to have been like, you can tell us now what's happening.
They knew when she got there unconscious. Kirsten got there. She was unconscious. They got her awake. One of the notes he had forced, this is ridiculous. Before they carried her up there, he made, and this doesn't make sense to me, he made Elisabeth write a note and put it in Kirsten's pocket saying, please treat her and be careful because she's never been to a hospital before. She's like scared of people, things like that, which was red flag number one to the healthcare workers. They were like, we're like trained to look for this.
Right.
Again, she had never met another person in her life and she was 19 years old. They could tell something was horribly wrong.
Right.
Horribly wrong.
Right.
So, okay, good plan, Joseph. Whatever.
Yeah.
I hate him.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he was like, okay, fine. You can go to the hospital, answer the questions about what led up to this, but you're keeping the story. You're in a cult. You abandoned your kids. She's like, great.
Mm-hmm.
That's when she sat down with the doctors. They noticed how bizarre she was acting. She's been locked away for 24 years.
Yeah.
They could not believe she was only 42 years old. She looked 70. It was just, the whole interaction was very unusual. And they're like, they just didn't know what to do. So the doctor called the police pretty much immediately.
Yeah. Wow.
So here we are.
And she says, like, as long as I never have to see my dad again. If I'm the cops, I'm like, are you sure? You don't want us to hold him down so you can get a few rib kicks in?
I know. So when she was leaving the hospital, when she said, okay, I have to go now, and the doctor was like, I don't think so. She was walking out with Joseph. So the cops actually got both of them and immediately separated them. And was like, what is going on?
Going to have to go back.
Oh, yeah. She actually was leaving. They met her at the gate. She actually was leaving. Another thing that raised the red flags, again, whether they suspected anything of Joseph or not, because she was leaving with them, they took him to the police station too. But they were very focused on Elisabeth because they're like, something's off. They did think she was the abuser. They just didn't know what was going on.
Right.
But when they were caring for Kirsten before Elisabeth came in, they're like, we have to confirm that Elisabeth is her daughter, and we will start this investigation all over again. Mm-hmm. So they came to the house, and they're like, see, these are the 3 other kids she abandoned before. They took swabs of the 3 other kids and said, yeah, this is definitely their sibling. And then they said, Joseph, can we have a swab of yours? And he said, no, I don't have time for that. I'm not doing that. And
fuck you and open your mouth.
Rosemarie gave hers, and they're like, you're definitely the maternal grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, you're not going to give it. And he was like, get out you go. They're like, I don't like this. Something is so wrong.
Aside from your looks. Yeah, I was tipped off by the way you look. And second of all, you're acting real weird.
At first sight, I could tell you had a devious plan because your eyebrows are at a point. Right. You're disgusting.
You're a cartoon character. Get the fuck in the car and open your mouth.
So that she really did say, okay, I have to go, and was trying to leave. And because she was with Joseph, they took both of them to the police station, put them in separate rooms. Joseph was just sort of waiting. Again, they weren't so sure about him, but he was with her, so they took him. She said, promise me I will never see my father again, and I will tell y'all everything. So that's where we are. Investigators are shocked.
Sure.
All this time, she was being held captive and painted as a horrible mother and shameful daughter to her poor elderly parents who had to raise her babies because she was a piece of shit.
Right.
He kept that story alive in the newspapers.
I'm sure he did. Nothing
because everyone was like,
what
a stand-up guy.
Right. Oh my God, the big 50th anniversary party, everything.
Oh yeah.
This is all for y'all.
They've
y'all
been through so much.
Oh my God.
So again, yeah, Rosemarie knew nothing of this. Elisabeth said that. She said she never once saw her mom. She knows she had nothing to do with it. This piece of shit, Joseph, confirmed that. He said he went to great lengths for his wife to not find out. She had no clue.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, you did, you piece of shit.
Yeah.
So Elisabeth told them everything for hours, making her statement. They had a huge stack of papers at the end of it, just making notes. And so then they go and talk to Joseph in his interrogation room.
Yay. I would be like, I'm looking forward to this. We'd have to paper, rock, scissors if I'm investigators. I'm like, I want to get in that room with that piece of shit.
Oh, it's just going to infuriate you. They sit down and they're like, here's what we know, told him. And he said, I'd rather not discuss it. I'd like to be left in peace. They're like, bitch, you're on our turf. We're not in your dungeon.
Yeah.
We're not in your dungeon. You're in ours.
You think you can victimize everyone, don't you? No, you're not in charge. We are. God, rib kicks. That is, I would love to. I'd be like, actually, will you lay on the ground real fast? You elderly old man. Someone get my billy club. I'm going to hit this guy in the head repeatedly.
Yeah, let's strap a gun to it, make it weigh a little extra.
Yeah, just jab him in the neck.
They told him to shut the fuck up. Dead. And then he admitted to what he did, sort of. He said the sex was consensual.
What are you talking about?
And it didn't happen until after she was an adult, which Elisabeth and all the evidence under the sun says bullshit to both of those.
Right.
So why was she being handcuffed to a what?
Yeah.
Told if she leaves that a gas was going to kill her. What are you talking about?
Right.
Consensual. Fuck off.
And didn't this start when she was 11? She was only kidnapped. I mean, not only, I don't mean that, but she was kidnapped at 18, but the molestation started at 11, right?
Yes, but he says today that's not true.
Oh, fuck you.
He says they never had sex until she was an adult.
Fuck you.
That's obviously not true. He then said, yes, he did imprison her, but it was for her own good. She was a difficult child.
Wow. Okay. Well, you're in prison for the rest of your life. It's for your own good. You're a troubled, disgusting old man.
After hours of questioning, he finally just admitted to all of it. They asked him if he regretted it at the end, and he said, why should I be sorry? I always cared for them. I meant well, and I saved Elisabeth from drugs. Like, had he not done this, she'd be a junkie, so she should be thanking him. This is an argument his defense will later go with as well.
No. There's so much hatred going on in my head. I don't even know what to say. I don't even know what to say.
Sorry. I know.
We should have done this at night with a cocktail, is what I'm thinking.
Oh, I know.
But
I know.
Here we are.
They finally forced him to give his DNA that he was so busy to give before, of course, proving that all 7 kids were his.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's 6 at this point. Sorry.
Oh,
poor Michael. But, they know that he had a twin.
Yeah.
Michael was, Before he's locked away, he takes them to the dungeon, and they open the door to find Stefan and Felix in there.
Oh.
The police officers were the first people outside of Joseph, Elisabeth, and Kirsten that these 2 boys had ever seen.
How old are they?
Think about it.
Yeah, I know.
Stefan was 18 and Felix was 5 years old.
Wow.
They were terrified when the police came in. They were very pale, but police noted how well-mannered and educated they were. Thanks solely, obviously, to Elisabeth.
I got goosebumps just then.
They walked out of the dungeon and for the first time ever walked outside, and investigators said their jaws were dropped at the sight of everything. When Felix saw the moon for the first time, he screamed with joy and asked if God was up there, if that was God.
Oh my God.
He said, are we in heaven?
Oh my God.
Is
so
awful.
sad. I'm teary.
I
and imagine being police having to walk in there. I would be so nervous. Just in general. To be like, how do I talk to them? Like, this is I know police are trained through and through for every situation, but surely none of them have dealt with this. I bet they're like, they're going to be so scared when they see us. Like, wow, that'd be very sad and scary. Like, as a police officer, I'd be like, I'm going to get emotional. I'm scared. I'm nervous.
I know. I know.
Oh.
When Felix and Stefan got into the car to go to the hospital, they were giddy with excitement, though. They had only seen cars. They had only seen cars on TV, and it was a short ride, but it was the most exciting thing they've ever done. They were laughing and like hiding behind the seats. They got really excited when they saw another oncoming car, like the headlights. It's really sad, but it's.
Wait, did they bring them out at night for a reason?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. They had everyone had to be given protective goggles until they got used to light.
Yeah, their eyes are so underdeveloped. They haven't seen anything except on TV. They haven't seen a tree except on TV, like grass, the sky. This is
nothing.
Wow.
They saw the cops' cell phones and they're like, what is that?
Wow.
They were mystified by the officer's cell phone. They're like, what is that?
That piece of shit robs them of so much. I just can't fathom this. Wow.
At the hospital, they reunited with Elisabeth. They all had psychological and physical exams to come up with the best course of action, obviously, for treatment. They were all traumatized, all malnourished. Their bones were brittle because of the lack of sunlight. Zero. Yeah. I'm telling you, they'd never seen sunlight.
No, zero vitamin D. Yeah.
They were very sick, all of them. Again, they had to wear protective goggles when the sun was out.
And yet they're terrible. Like laughing and having fun.
They're having fun. They said Felix loved the sun even more than the moon. And they would be like, you cannot stop looking at it. Please stop looking at it. But they also said Felix was in the best of health of all of them because he'd been there for the shortest amount of time.
Yeah.
So they knew off the bat, like he was likely going to make a full recovery relatively quickly. The next day, Rosemarie went to the psychiatric center where Elisabeth, Stefan, and Felix were being treated. And she brought Lisa, Monica, and Alexander to meet their mom and siblings that they had no idea existed.
Oh my God. They just thought, yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Even though the three of them were, seemingly randomly chosen to live in good conditions and they were physically in good health. Imagine learning this.
Oh, the survivor's
Your
guilt.
Grandfather is also your father.
Yeah.
Your mom, who you thought and were told abandoned you, had been in a torture chamber just below your feet your entire lives.
Yeah. Where you were
your siblings
born.
Are down there.
Where you were born.
Where you were born. You were there when you were babies, but you were spared. And we don't really know why.
Oh, oh God.
So they needed psychological, obviously, treatment too. And I'm telling you the reunion, but it was very strategically done. Like first, Rosemarie and Elisabeth saw each other.
Sure.
Then they brought in kids like one by. It was not, because at first I was like, oh, I don't think this sounds very overwhelming.
Yeah.
No, it was very like methodically, thought out. But when Rosemarie and Elisabeth saw each other for the first time, they leapt into each other's arms, and Elisabeth cried.
Oh God, don't! You're crying. Oh God.
Elisabeth cried and said, I can't believe I'm free. And Rosemarie was sobbing, telling her that she was so sorry. She had no idea and that they would never be separated again.
Oh.
Then Elisabeth sees the three children she hadn't seen since they were babies and screamed, my babies! And they all hugged.
Oh. Wow.
The kids were all nervous when they met each other, but they hugged and, tried to form bonds, but the three upstairs had immense guilt.
I'm sure,
obviously. But they're close now. They're close now. We'll get to where they are now, but we're happy.
And I'd be like,
given the circumstances,
my siblings, I'd be very fearful if I got to live upstairs. Fearful of how much my siblings resent me. Like I don't know why they chose me.
No, there's so many layers to it.
Oh God. What did Rosemarie say to this piece of shit? I just wanna we don't know. Okay.
She divorced him. She left town. She doesn't she's obvious,
But wow.
Even Elisabeth's brothers and sisters were at their reunion and just in absolute shock over what a piece of shit their dad was. They knew he was a piece of shit. They're all scared of him. Like he was just the enforcer.
Right.
And he would abuse them beyond the 1960s, 70s, 80s appropriate amount.
Right.
But they were like, this is insane. Elisabeth and all 6 kids stayed at the psychiatric center for what I imagine was just very intense therapy.
Sure.
Kirsten did recover.
She did?
In critical. Yeah.
I was going to
Kirsten
ask.
recovered.
Wow.
She was in critical condition for a while, but she's good. Joseph was charged with incest, rape, coercion, enslavement, and the murder of baby Michael.
What?
Yeah, the twin that didn't survive because Joseph didn't seek medical help when Michael was clearly having trouble breathing. So it was negligence, neglect. Yeah, he's charged with murder.
Oh, good. Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I don't even know why I was shocked by that. I thought you were just going to say like he was crying too much one day and he just fucking killed him, which I would not put past this piece of shit.
Oh, no.
Okay.
No, it was, just neglect, obviously. But not obviously. I wouldn't put it past him, would I?
Yeah, no.
He pled guilty to all charges except the murder, but a couple days before trial, he ended up changing that and pleaded guilty to that as well.
Okay, good.
His trial started in March 2009, and the defense argued that, again, he was just trying to keep his daughter safe from the scary path she was going down.
I mean, is the prosecutor like, okay, this is good. Thank you. You're handing this to me on a silver platter, you dipshits.
It's
okay.
Ridiculous.
But what else are they going to say? They're like, what?
Well, so they said that, and then they also said he was a good father to those kids. He even brought down a Christmas tree to their prison during the holidays.
Wow.
What?
That is so nice.
Shut the fuck up.
Shut the fuck
up. So the jury
up.
said, fuck off.
Good.
And he was sentenced to life with no possibility of parole for at least 15 years, which would be this year. I think he started his sentence in 2010. But that's not happening due to the severity of his crimes. He's never getting out.
Good.
He's currently 90 years old. And last year, due to his dementia, he was transferred to a psychiatric prison where he continues to rot until he finally dies.
I would need to break his jaw if I were in charge of
if you were
overseeing him. Yeah.
I'd be like, no, I did give him his medicine. Yeah. No, he's not in pain now, for sure. No.
Right. I will give him his medicine when he's so badly in pain, he's ripping out his own hair. How about that?
Exactly.
Ripping out his own disgusting eyebrows. Yeah, well.
For real.
Wait, but I do have a question. He pled guilty, so I guess they have a trial no matter what. You said the jury found him. Oh, okay.
I know. I was in a lot of places, it doesn't matter what you plead, you're getting a jury trial.
Oh, okay.
So I'm assuming this is one of those. But yes, he did end up pleading guilty.
Okay.
I'm sure in some cases it can help your sentence, but not in this one. Elisabeth and all 6 kids are currently living under new identities in an Austrian community only known as Village X.
Wow.
From my understanding, it's a community in the countryside built, I don't know if it's built exclusively for people recovering from trauma like this, but they did weekly therapy. They have 24/7 security. If anyone comes up to the gate, they're picked up by police immediately.
Wow.
It's so I'm like, I don't know if it's just them or this is like a community of people. Yeah. But it is a small town. We don't know the name of it. They just refer to it as Village X.
Fair.
There are strict Austrian laws in place to prevent their new identities from being revealed.
Fair.
And Elisabeth and the family's bodyguard ended up falling in love. So now he lives with them. Yeah, Thomas. He lives there too now.
Really?
Uh-huh. He's still their protector.
Wow. That is like the only time I've smiled in this entire repulsive episode. Oh my God. That makes me so happy.
I know.
God, she will always feel safe. Good.
Yeah. Well, as much as she can. The relationship has helped her heal tremendously, some people have said.
Wow.
Other people who live there also help protect them from any sort of attention. And for the most part, outsiders are very respectful of that. No one's trying to find them. One photographer tried to approach Village X and said, quote, "There are only a few villagers and they are all in with the police. I was quickly surrounded by people who told me they don't want to talk to you. They don't want to see you. Get out of here."
Wow.
People are there for them.
Yeah.
A restaurant owner who sees the family a lot says they are doing more than fine. They're extremely polite. They're always smiling. Given what they go through, what they went through, effing remarkable.
Yeah.
The kids are all now between the ages of 23 and 37. They can only sleep in rooms with the doors open, and getting through this took a lot of therapy. Again, the upstairs kids had so much guilt. but now everyone is reportedly very well adjusted and living a very under the radar life. I think some of them may even be married. I don't
like married.
I think some may be married.
Wow, that is a miracle.
The book and movie called Room is based on this horrible story. I think Brie Larson's in it. I've never seen it, but there is a book and movie. There's quite a few books.
Yeah.
The book I sourced was Secrets in the Cellar by John Glatt, and the Medium article was called Imprisoned by Her Father, The Horrific Torture and Captivity of Elisabeth Fritzl, again by Tim Reynolds. That is the horrible story of Elisabeth Fritzl, that piece of shit Josef Fritzl, and those poor babies, all of them.
I am so pissed off and
That's
upset.
the darkest story I've ever read about. I know. I'm sorry. I was in too deep by the time I was like, oh, ugh, I don't know. Never mind. I gotta stop
justifying
it.
Yeah.
Horrible.
Wow. Okay. Well, I need a drink. How about y'all? I need a mood gummy. How about you?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Wow.
I mean, awful.
That is okay.
Patrons: D.A., Cassie, Sarah, Dee Dee, Miranda, Yvonne, Julie, Noel, Kalia, Samantha, Dina, Kyra, Kimberly, Amy, Carrie, Emily, Abby, Julie, Liz, Leah, Jesse, Taylor, Sarah, Katie, Mel, Melissa, Allie, Christy, Christina, Lacey Gray, Holly, Jennifer, Jasmine, Lacey, Marie, Melissa, Tabitha, Aaron, Leah, Maria, Madison, Marcia, I think, Sue, Candace, Alyssa, Amber, Nikki, Jane, Michelle, Nikolai. Sorry, it's so small. I think Nikolai, Emily, and that's it. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much.
Now, custom shout outs. First one is Brooke. My shout out is to you, Rach and Rub. Thanks for all the damn moments and all the laughs. I myself cracking up along with y'all, not in this episode or not.
I was about to say, sorry for the lacks of laughs.
I know. Especially if you have lingering effects from a gummy. P.S. I hate old cases too. Word,
man.
I mean, lingering effects from a gummy. I sure could use those right now.
Sure.
That's what I'm saying.
Yep.
The next one's from Amy. After being a true crime junkie for years, true crime came to our door. Oh, shit. My amazing DIL was murdered a few weeks ago. Oh, my God. Daughter?
What?
Is that
Oh,
right?
shit.
I want to shout out her name, Ariel Levy. People are the worst peeps. So, oh, my God. People are the worst peeps. Pray for justice and healing for her babies. Oh, I'm going to Google that.
Oh, my God.
The second we get done here.
What's her last name?
I am so sorry. Levy? Yeah, Ariel Levy, Levy. Oh
my God.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Thinking of your family, I'm so sorry.
People in Texas,
fucking worse. She'll get justice. I don't know. We'll see. I'll see. I'll check.
Wow, yeah, it is.
Where she?
Wait, I may have seen this on TikTok.
The name kind of sounds familiar.
Oh no, it wasn't her, but it did. Wow.
Isn't that awful? That's horrible. I'm sorry.
I know. Shit.
The next one is from Josephine. I listen to y'all every Thursday morning while mixing chemotherapy at an oncology clinic.
Oh,
your gallows. Well, she's mixing it, so but still, I mean, it's such a tough line of work. Yeah. Your gallows humor and quick wit always makes my day. Thank you. Cancer is the worst, but our patients and my fellow nurses are the best. Yes, you are. Yes, we get a lot of nurses.
I know we do,
and I love it. Their nurses are badass.
They really are.
The last one's from Bree. Hi, gals and pals. My name is Bree, and I am the artist behind Betty Glass Company on Instagram or at bettyglassco.com. Just because I do this. BETTYGLASSCO.com.
Okay.
You know, Betty Glassco.
Yeah, I got it. I got it when you first said it.
I make quirky stained glass. My ticket to local fame are my pooping dogs equipped with the dangle poop. Oh my God. Custom pooping pets available.
Wow.
Get yourself one for Ani. We can get a little dingleberry painting for Ani.
Sure we can. As big as a bear poop, but sure.
Sure.
Oh my God. That is hilarious.
That's awesome. Thanks, Bree. Thanks, everyone.
That's how we needed to end it, with that, for sure.
With something that made us
smile.
Smile.
Thank you so
dying inside.
much
Thank y'all so much. Thank y'all for joining Patreon. Thank y'all for listening. They're not all like this.
No, they're not. And I'm now reading about Ariel Levy.
I know. Or I'm Googling it now. Thank y'all. Y'all are the best.
People are the actual worst. Bye.
Bye.